Our story begins with a couple of days earlier in the slums of Monsters with Wasteland breaking through the defenses, and their brutal attacks destroyed everything in their path, and all the people who were in that place could not escape from these monsters that came out of nowhere. And among all the people who were running away from danger in the center was a little boy who also did not stand still and with all his legs tried to find shelter. And I run away. He suddenly realized that he had to find a weapon somewhere, because there's no other way for a slum boy to survive in this environment. Other people, or rather bandits and murderers, started pulling out their guns and shooting at other fleeing people, shouting at them that they were idiots would be perfect bait for the monsters, where the people who fell to the ground were eventually robbed and crushed, and that they were killed and eaten by monsters. But the little slum boy Akira ran away with great speed, because he wasn't going to say goodbye to his life here. And as he rounded the corner, he saw his gun lying next to the dead man, and he couldn't pass up the chance. After all, he needs this weapon now because without it he cannot survive in these places. Sprinting and ducking at full speed, he still managed to get that weapon for himself. But as soon as he looked at the weapon and decided to get to his feet, he saw a huge monster beast wolf in front of him, who was looking at him with a terrifying gaze straight into his eyes. And no sooner had he moved than the beastman opened his huge mouth and began to attack him with the purpose of destroying him. And as his huge sharp teeth sank into the body of our hero, he began to scream in pain, but still he decided not to die right here, and he needs to fulfill his dream. And pulling a gun out of his back pocket, he pointed it straight at the passel of monsters, pulling the trigger, and the sounds of gunfire erupted throughout the neighborhood. And after that, he decided to raise his head and saw that the creepy monster was still destroyed, and he managed to survive and destroy his opponent. But suddenly another shot rang out that exactly destroyed that huge monster that was standing near our hero. But Akira could not understand what happened because he had already stopped using his weapon. And as the immobilized monster fell to the ground, the boy saw that behind him stood the hunter with his weapon in his hands, with which he finished off the beastly wolf. Slowly rising from the earth, Akira, without any hesitation, decided to ask the other man what, unless he was a hunter. To which the man replied that he shouldn't touch the bloody corpses of the monsters because these old world religions are enough to pay for his dinner, and that he should drop the gun right now and get the hell out of here. But as soon as he stood up on his own 2 feet and turned around, he started to run away from the hunter with shouts. But the hunter did not expect such audacity and started shooting at his feet to immobilize him, but the boy was too fast, and still he managed to escape around the corner. And holding a gun, he realized that he too could become a cool hunter, and that he was going to prove to everyone that he could climb to the highest heights and become the #1 hunter. A short time later, the city had walls that shut out the insanely rich from the rest of the world, that the rest of the people call a wasteland. And in the neighborhood, there was a conversation that went on about how poor people like me have no choice but to live in the slums that are right next to the empty still. And most people live and die here. But if he can earn money, he has a chance of getting out of here. On another man decided to ask how he managed to get out of the slums and eventually become an amazing monster hunter, and that there are places in the wasteland where relics of the old world remain, and if he gets to them, he can sell them for a very good price. And rumor has it that the hunters who got their hands on priceless relics of the old world were able to start a new life outside the walls of the city. And our hero, who was near the place with the relics of the old world, looked in amazement at what was happening in front of him. For it was the ruined ancient city of Kuzuhara, and from this city just left a huge ruin that this or in itself many dangers and amazing relics. And holding his hunter's license in his hand, he realized that he was now a hunter and would bring the relic no matter what it cost him. But when he came down from the building, he continued to walk towards his dream of finding the relic and holding his hunter's license in his hands. He couldn't notice a man with a gun waiting for him around the corner. And just as he rounded the corner, that man grabbed him by the arm and started pulling him along the ground. And soon other guys came up to that man and pointed their weapons at our hero and started telling him to take his hands off his weapons. But what they didn't realize is that this guy didn't even look like he could make money off the rag he wears on his body. Our hero raised his head and saw that these guys are a parody of bandit hunters who are just looking for the weak and taking all their prey. But at that moment, one of the guys hit our hero on the stomach, and after that they began to ask that he is not playing hunter, and that it is a waste paper they give to anyone who crossed the threshold of the Department of Hunters. And as soon as that guy read our hero's name, he started saying that it was the end of his bad game of monster hunters, and after all that was said, he started going on and marketing our hero. But sitting down on one knee, our hero, holding his scarred face, began to say that his name was not Ajira, and his name is Akira, and soon he could become the #1 amazing hunter. But the man started laughing loudly and saying, doesn't he know that on that fist of paper it says Ajira, and that they made a mistake, and it's like Slum Boy. And anyway, he's sick of playing games with him, and he should give them everything he has right now. But at that moment, our hero sharply turned his head to the side and began to stare at some strange creature, but the hunter bandits could not understand what was wrong with him and what he saw there. But in front of our hero appeared a naked girl who stared straight into his eyes, and slowly opening her mouth, she decided to ask Akira. But our hero didn't understand why her face was so calm and where she even came from. But the girl kept asking our hero if he could see her now. But delivering his gun, Akira slowly began to raise it and pointed at that girl who appeared with shouts for her to stand still. The other hunter bandits couldn't figure out what was wrong with this guy and started pulling out their guns and pointing them at him, yelling at him to calm down and drop his gun, and the fact that he's just some weirdo pointing his gun at a place where there's no one there. But at that moment, our hero realized the terrifying fact that the other guys do not see this girl, and that something strange is going on here. Akira once again shouted at the girl to stand still, but the other hunters couldn't understand what he was shouting about and what he saw in front of him. Could it be the ghost of the old world? But suddenly the girl started saying that our hero has seconds to jump into that building behind him if he doesn't want to die right there on the spot. But as soon as she got right up close to him, she started counting down, but Hiro didn't realize what she was doing. But the counting didn't stop and the girl kept saying the number 6. Once she realized that this guy in front of her was completely useless, she said goodbye to him and started glowing brightly. But at that moment, the guy suddenly shifted and started running to the place she said earlier that he had seconds if he didn't want to die. He had to get there quickly and take cover behind the nearest wall. But the hunters couldn't figure out why this guy suddenly started running to the nearest building. And just as he reached the entrance doorway, a huge explosion sounded behind him, which threw him straight inside the building with a huge blast wave. The explosion was so huge, the guy thought he was going to die. But by managing to regroup and shine a light behind his head, he avoided serious injury but continued to still fly along the ground inside the building. But in this world, a girl who was on the street appeared near him with the words that she was glad that he managed to cope with the task she had given him earlier. And as soon as she turned around, she started saying her name was Alpha. She was very pleased to meet him. But now they must go up the stairs together. Our hero couldn't understand what she was saying, but as soon as she started counting down the seconds again, he took off and started running up the stairs because he had huge explosions behind him again. And climbing to the top of the building, he decided to catch his breath on the ground. He started asking Alfie to tell him what was even going on here. But in her open clothes, she stood in front of him and began to say that she understood him and would now explain everything, and that he would have been killed by gun dogs. So she came when he needed help, and he should now realize what she's telling him. And the fact that he now has to get up and look down and see that there are a huge number of gun wolves wandering around in the bloodstream. But Hiro couldn't understand what was going on there. But Alpha started to say that if he went out as their guns grow out of their backs, these are the gun dogs. Originally they were created for policemen in the urban areas of the old world. Now they are a type of biological monster. And the fact that nanobots are implanted in them and making weapons and ammunition for them. But still Turned Our Game decided to ask what he is more interested in, who she is and where she came from in the first place. And is she really the ghost that the fairy tales say she is? But Alpha told him that it wasn't, and that what he was seeing now was a form of augmented reality. And it was created using very high technology in what they called the old world. As soon as she came closer to him, our hero friend got shy and started blushing, asking her what he didn't understand about augmented reality. When she touched him, she began to explain that it seemed to him as if she was really here, because information about her is sent directly to the hearing and vision parts of the brain. The conversation continued, and Alpha began to say that now she will tell why he is here. After all, he is a hunter, to which our hero in response nodded her head in agreement, and that she was counting on it, and since he's a hunter, she has an errand for him. And she wants him to take control of a certain ruin, but our hero didn't realize what a certain old ruin is. It's not really necessary to capture it, and it's not really the ruin where they are now, and he can even get to them. But Alpha said it was unfortunate that he was dead, because those ruins are very dangerous, and as a down payment, she'll act as the perfect support, and so he can get there for sure. If all goes well, she'll give him a relic of the old world that he can sell for a very good price. But when our hero heard it, he couldn't believe his ears. Is it really true what she just said? But in an instant, our hero's face suddenly turned serious and he started telling the Alpha that he was grateful to her for helping him now, but he had to turn her down. Alpha, with her glassy eyes, suddenly began to stare at him intently. But our hero said he just realized why he wanted to be a hunter after all. Up to that point in the slums, he had been drugged and stripped countless times, and the fact that they told him he could eat good food and he could live outside the walls, and because he believed their lies. He was betrayed and abandoned on the road and lost everything he had. And he would never let himself be fooled again, not even by some hologram that appeared out of nowhere and didn't really explain why she was here. But Alpha kept insisting on her own, telling our hero that she should say that by getting this job offer, he's almost spent all his luck. So, if he doesn't accept the offer, he'll be finished. and before he can get out of this territory, he'll die. And what's more, the monsters downstairs will absolutely kill him, and he really wants to die that badly, she asked. But our hero realized that by coming here he was prepared for the worst. If he is destined to die here, he realizes that it means his luck has run out. But turning around, he left and said that this time he would make the right decision, that he realized he hadn't completely given up yet and put his hands down. But Alpha stayed behind his back and told him that she was offering him a deal then. She'll help him for a certain amount of time as a trial period, and once he can trust her, they can make a contract. But he must now answer how he feels about the offer. After all, if she helps him, at least he won't die here. After thinking it over, our hero turned around and told her that he's okay with it now, but he'll think about the full contract offer next. But if he has one thought that she's cheating on him, that's the end of their relationship. And as soon as they got outside, Alpha started saying that rule number 1 was that he had to follow her instructions exactly. And it doesn't matter how much she will help him, but if he doesn't follow her light, everything will be in vain. And after hearing all this, our hero agreed with her words. And now to survive, he had to get past the gun dogs. But our hero didn't understand how he was supposed to do that. But Alpha said that in the movements of dogs, there is a pattern. If you take the individual characteristics of dogs and analyze them, you can find patterns. Nothing complicated in it is not difficult. And as she descended the steps to the first floor, Alpha began to call out for the hero to follow her slowly. And as they approached the collapsed window, our hero realized that the weapon was actually growing out of their backs. Alpha said that he wouldn't get wet if he got caught in the blast from their shots. And that's why he needs to run past them as fast as he can, and not turn around. Just keep running and then he can survive. But as soon as the hero heard it, he couldn't believe it. Did she just make a joke? But the Alpha kept insisting on her what she had just said, that he must absolutely follow her instructions. And now all he has to do is run and follow her instructions. If he doesn't follow at least one of them, he'll die on the spot. But no sooner had he run a few meters than the dogs noticed him and started running after him. But suddenly Alpha appeared in front of them and started yelling at the dogs to look only at her. And as soon as they saw Alpha, they all started firing their cannons that were on their backs. But because she was just a hologram, all the shells flew right past her. And just a few minutes later, she saw that they were finally out of ammo. But suddenly there was a huge explosion, and all the small dogs started flying in different directions, and Alpha noticed that the one she had been waiting for had finally arrived. The one every monster hunter fears is the leader of gun dogs. And the fact that he was very huge, and just by his mere appearance, he terrified everyone he met on his way. And as soon as he completely came out of the destroyed building on it, was seen that he really inspires terror, and that he was several tens of meters in height, and on his back was a huge weapon that could destroy with one shot half of a 5-story building. At this time, our hero continued to run away, not realizing what was happening, but turning his head in the direction where Alpha was standing. He saw that there were huge explosions appearing there. And at that moment, she appeared beside him and began to say that she was going to ask him to do something very peculiar. If he hesitated even for a second, he would simply die. But she'll try to make sure he can't die here because she promised to watch him and help him all the time. And as she swung her hand and gave the order for him to hurry up and run in the opposite direction, she would try to hold off the huge monster that was slowly approaching them. And as soon as he ran a few meters, he heard the voice of his partner Alpha, who said that as soon as he turned right, he should put his back against the wall for seconds and then run back the same way, and that he should pull out his gun and at her command turn around and shoot until he ran out of ammo, didn't understand how he could shoot such a huge monster with a weapon like his own. And fleeing amongst all the explosions, that would be which says, and at that moment he began to slowly turn his body in the opposite direction and extend his arms, slowly pulling the trigger of the gun. And as soon as he turned around completely, he saw the huge eye of a huge monster emerge from the ruins. And after a few shots, there was an explosion that threw him to the ground. And with his face covered, he couldn't bear to look at the destruction that was happening right in front of him. But as soon as he raised his head, he started asking the Alpha that did he really kill him, to which she calmly replied that he had done a great job. But looking at his weapon, he could not even suspect that so small a weapon could kill so big a monster. But Alpha raised his hand and pointed his index finger at his head, saying that although he was big, it looked like his brains were the size of rabbits' brains. And that she, of course, helped him to defeat the monster. And how could she not, because she promised him that she would accompany him and help him all the time, until they made that pact they had agreed on the roof of the building. And that she's shown very cool support. But why can't he just trust her now, and that he shouldn't be modest and should shower her with praise now? But our hero was still very frightened and discouraged that things had turned out this way, because that monster he had killed could have killed a dozen small hunters like him. But he was still grateful that she had helped him. But Alpha continued to insist that if they make a contract, she can help him once more, and that he can right now say his answer to our hero did not hurry with such actions, and told her to give him a little more time to gather his thoughts. A little while later, Alpha walked the area and eventually said that all the gun dogs were finally gone and he could come out of hiding safely. And coming out of the dill place, he began to look at his partner Alpha and wondered if she was really augmented reality ghost of the old world. And remembering those words she said to him earlier that she was counting on it, and since he's a hunter, she has an errand for him. But our hero didn't fully realize if he could accept her offer and work with an ephemeral being calling himself an Alpha. His thoughts were interrupted by her asking if he wanted to continue the search or if he wanted to go back home. But with a wave of his hand, he was still determined to keep looking for artifacts because he couldn't go home until he found what he had come for. Well, as soon as he moved from his seat, Alpha asked that, since he had so firmly decided it was okay with him if they went instead of slightly more dangerous than this on those words still only scared him. The Alpha was still in a very cheerful mood and smiling. She told him that as long as she showed him the way he would be fine, as long as he followed her instructions, of course. And as soon as she had finished speaking, they set off on their way. And coming out on a straight road, she began to show them which way they should go to get to the place where the relics were hidden. And sometime later, she started telling our hero to hurry up and hide in a shelter, and he didn't think long enough to rush behind the nearest wall, and that he should now maximize the thrust and stay in the same place for exactly seconds. But the hero did not understand whether there were enemies somewhere because he did not really see anything. And looking out from around the corner, he began to consider that there was nothing nearby but a ruined building, and that he couldn't understand why she had made him hide behind that wall. And as soon as he stood up, she started ordering him again to run to the other wall and press himself against it for seconds. After that, he should put his back against the next wall and slowly move forward. Then he must climb to the top of the destroyed building, and then run as fast as he can until she tells him to stop and hide behind the wall again. And once he had his back against the wall again and was slowly moving forward, he suddenly noticed that they had just been in this very spot, and not understanding why they were walking in circles. But such maneuvers had exhausted our hero very much, and he had little left, but Alpha still kept telling him to come back now with the very same route. But he stood still and suddenly started thinking about what he was doing and why he was doing it at all, because there was no one here, and that if she was going to tell him to come back from the start, why did she ask him to climb that huge block of rock? But Alpha briefly replied that he was climbing through the expansion to avoid the dangerous path. But right now, he should not think and just listen to her instruction and go back to the very place where they had started. But he couldn't hear any sounds from outside, and he couldn't believe that it was really dangerous out there. But still gathering his thoughts, and that he made the decision that he would kick out for a second and see if there was any danger. But as soon as he approached the corner of the building, poked his head out from behind the shelter, he made sure that there was no danger nearby. But suddenly Alpha appeared and started yelling at him to get behind the building because he could die. And at that moment, a huge robot began to appear right in front of his eyes, which with the help of its disguise stood invisible. And in just a few seconds, he completely appeared a huge robot, who with his huge eyes saw everything that was in the nearest few kilometers. And at that moment, a huge explosion sounded because of what our hero from the shockwave began to fly away a few dozen meters to the side. But he was lucky that he flew into a crevice that led to the basement, so the robot kept scanning but eventually found nothing but a chest of rocks. But still, our hero was severely wounded in the abdomen from being hit by a piece of laser that flew off a huge robot. And as soon as he started to realize what was happening, Alpha started telling him that if she hadn't hacked into the guidance system of those missiles, he would have been finished, and it was a miracle that she could breathe and that he had survived at all. There's an incredibly dangerous neighborhood guarded by robots with high-tech optical cloaking. If he didn't like her instructions, why didn't he tell her in person? But still remaining on the ground, he lowered his head and lightly told her he was sorry, but she held out her hand telling him to show his wound. I watched him. She realized that he looked lousy and that he wouldn't last much longer, and now they needed to find a cure. And that he has trust issues with her, and she understands. They barely know each other, but he must know that his death would put her in danger too. And so she's doing everything she can to keep him alive, because that's the #1 priority right now. And moving even closer to him, she asked him to trust her for once. But he still lowered his head, and with a heavy voice he began to say quietly that he would never become a strong hunter. But his partner Alpha said he's wrong now because all he has to do is sign a contract with her anyway. And while he searches for the strength and will to sign the contract, she swears she'll take care of the rest. Because all he needs is strength and desire. He doesn't need anything else to get stronger. And what he remembers and realizes is that he promised himself that he would become a hunter and get out of these slums and never be tormented again. And that if he can't get out of them, what can he do? And that she's right now because he needs to pull himself together, and get the strength to move on. He needs to survive to get stronger anyway. And that he doesn't know how he'll find the strength to achieve everything he wants. And though bleeding from a severe wound, he still barely got to his feet. And slowly leaning on the wall, he continued on his own. For she had an idea, and they should move on. deep into the ruins. And as he walked down the long corridor, he caught a glimpse of Fat and noticed that there were huge robots hidden inside. And they were the same robots that had attacked him recently. And once they got deep into the ruins, our hero saw some kind of country jar, but Alpha started to explain that here lies the relic she was looking for. And he needs to take this medication now. First, he has to swallow the capsules, and then he has to open a couple of capsules and pour the powder directly on his wound. And the powder is made up of surgical nanorobots, so if he applies it directly to the wound, the medicine will work faster and there's no anesthetic, so he has to hold on with all his might. And as soon as he poured the powder on his wound, he started to feel a huge pain in his body, and because of that, his body started to twist in different directions. And immediately after that, he fell asleep and slept for a few hours. He began to slowly come to his senses and open his eyes. But as soon as he opened his eyes fully, he saw a girl sitting in front of him asking him if he had slept well. Not realizing what was going on, he quickly pulled out his gun and pointed it straight at Alpha, who was sitting next to him. And when Alpha noticed this, he started to ask if she scared him. Our hero replied that he was just born in a place where waking up to find a man looking down on him usually means he's been robbed, but Alpha said not to worry about it, and that about his wounds. But as he raised his hand, he saw that his wounds were healed, and now that she had spoken, he realized early on it no longer hurt and it really had healed, and that it looked like the medicine was doing its job. And continuing to examine my body for fat, I realized that old world medicine was amazing. But Alpha interrupted him, saying that since they could go now, why don't they check to see if there are any more relics waiting to be taken over? And once they started looking around, Alpha told our hero not to be greedy and to remember that they had to go back through the danger zone. And that, by the way, they need to find a use for the knife and the medical equipment. But picking it up was sure it didn't look like a battle axe, and once they were done with the relics, the Alpha said that was enough for today and they should head back. And as soon as they arrived in the abandoned city, where a lot of people were passing by, our hero turned his head and started asking the Alpha that, doesn't anyone see her? I mean, it's just weird when no one pays any attention to a woman in such a flashy outfit at all. But Alpha said that while we're on the subject, he should know that people can't hear her voice either, so now he looks like he's talking to himself. And as they approached the building, they realized they had arrived at the place because when they looked up, they saw the place. And where the sign on the building said buying relics that belongs to the Hunter's Service. But our hero thought only about how much he would be paid, maybe about gold coins or even 000. But as soon as they got inside, our hero went to the relic receiving station. And the man examined the relic and put gold coins on the table. And our hero, seeing this, could not understand that he had brought such a religion, and that it was for the sake of gold coins. And he attacked the salesman and started saying, is he kidding him? This is barely enough to eat? But the man with an angry face started asking, does he have a problem? If so, then he should take his hunting license and look for something else. And at that moment, there was another hunter behind him who started saying, why doesn't he just get the hell out of here with his religions? But after hearing all this, our hero realized that he had no other choice, and he slowly started to take his gun out of his back pocket, and the other hunters noticed it and started to take out their weapons as well. The Alpha, who was near him, started telling him not to do what he was up to, because it's better not to pull out his weapon here. The man on the other hand went on to say that he wanted to give him at least some of his knowledge, and first-rank hunters with no reputation or achievements get gold regardless of the value of the relic. It is the law, and he should be thankful that he's being paid in gold for something they have no idea about. As far as he knows, it could be some garbage, and it would take at least a day to evaluate his relic. And after the appraisal, they'll decide how much to pay him next time he comes in, so he should go and find something else to sell them. But still, most did not come back here a second time, and our hero was determined that he would come back even if he had to crawl here from the last of his strength. And looking firmly and angrily into the eyes of the release buyer, he swore to him that he would still come here. Well, once our hero decided to turn around and leave, the man told him to remember that his hunter's license is an ID card. If he loses it, they'll make him a new one, but he'll have to start all over again. And before he could get out of the door, the man gave him one last shout for him to be careful out there. A short while later, he reached the slums of the provisioning center. There was talk in none of the buildings that some of the men couldn't believe that they would eat anything for free. Their food is made of plumbing ingredients from real machines and is even rumored to be mostly made up of monster meat. And you can sell anything as long as no one dies or mutates into a monster. But at that time, our hero was eating the Sanovits he bought from those guys, and Alpha, who was watching him eat that food, started telling him that she didn't know if he knew, but there were dangerous ingredients in his food. But he said he knew, but he was broke. And that's all he could afford for the money he was given. But after hearing that, Alpha said that means they have to get to work. And they're going right now to get religion, and they're still on probation, so she'll be helping him. A little while later, they did make it to the abandoned ruins of Kuzusuhara, but suddenly our hero decided to ask his partner Alpha why she changed into a dress, but she suddenly replied that, does it not look good on her? Or the previous, He likes it better, but the hero replied that it was very pretty. But if we're talking about his preferences, he liked the way she was dressed on the day they met better. But Alpha suddenly thought about it and began to remember the way she was dressed the day they met, and changed his image. She asked did he mean when she was naked? But covering his eyes because of what he had just seen, our hero began to shout what he meant by the clothes she was wearing afterward. But still he couldn't understand why this particular dress, to which Alpha replied that it was for the same reason as the day they had met. But he couldn't understand what she meant by that, and she began to explain that even in the ruins of the world, there are places where the data of the augmented reality is still being broadcast, and she interferes with the transmission system and expands the range of the broadcast. But if you use the interception equipment, she's easy enough to spot and her dress makes it easy to find who's using it. And that's when our hero realized it meant someone was intercepting data near them. And it frightened him a little bit, but still his partner, so that it did not happen, he should not turn around and draw attention to himself. After all, she has a plan to get rid of the pursuers. And even though they're watching them and there's only 2 of them, the 2 men are well-equipped hunters who were following them. And the fact that they've been on the tail for a very long time and are good at keeping their distance without showing themselves. At these words alarmed, and he began to question that is she sure that they are not on purpose, and why they are after him, to which Alpha replied that either they noticed him when he was selling the relic, or got information about him somewhere, and in any case they want to steal it. He must now consider them enemies, or he will simply die. But still he was angry because now he would have to fight the hunters too. But Alpha told him to forget about it, and now he should enter the building in front of them and only do it as naturally as possible. And as soon as they got inside, our hero started asking her how he could escape. But she replied that there's no need to run away to fight, and he'll swap roles with them. But our hero thought that she's not kidding. After all, they are pronounced to the teeth. But smiling fearfully, Alpha said that with her support, he could defeat them and he just had to sign a contract with her. Our hero wasn't so simple and to the point. He didn't agree. He just said he'd think about it if they destroyed the pursuers. Considering her comrade's stubbornness, Alpha still said she agreed and she would show him the advantage of her support. He can really beat them. If he can't even handle them, then his dream of becoming a great hunter is worthless. And now he must simply prepare himself, and that he must be ready to restrain his temper and his eagerness too. And having prepared for the battle at last, he said that he would take care of his morals and aspirations. After all, the Alpha will take care of the rest. Right now, he should just listen to her and act. And he'll be so surprised by her endorsement that he'll sign with her right away. At this time, the 2 pursuers who were watching our hero began to talk about the fact that this punk really walks around with a girl in a dress, and his partner began to reply that his optics are getting the information. And the fact that that girl so brazenly appears in plain sight, but can only be seen by people who have devices that allow them to see the old world. And the fact that only the chosen few can see her, and they're called ghosts, is what one of the stalkers thought. But the other stalker is stiff, replying that I too am just a scarecrow about ruins, and that tempting ghost who lures hunters deep into the ruins with the promise of many relics. On his comrade thought he was a fool, and it's just an augmented reality system. It's not unusual, and it's creepy to think that something from the old world still works. But still he saw through their ruse, but his comrade couldn't understand what he meant. And he started saying that if he had it because he was using it to escort him to the place where he found that religion. And he thinks the ghost story scared everyone so much that no one went to those places, and after hearing it, his partner realized it was definitely true. And turning around, one of the pursuers began to say that they could already move out from behind the herd, but his comrade told him not to be in such a hurry. After all, he had a plan, and that he'll stay here to make sure they don't run away. And if he sees the girl, he'll go to them, although he can go with him if he's afraid of ghosts. But his partner said not to make fun of him because he can handle it alone. But still, his partner realized it could be a trap and he could just watch from the outside. But still to the end, he hoped that his fears were simply in vain, and his partner would not be harmed. And going inside the building, the other stalker who had virtual reality goggles started following the girl Alpha. And transmitting information on the radar, he began to tell his comrade that he had found the girl, and now she was walking down the hallway right in front of him. His buddy asked the guy who's with her now, and he said she's alone now, and he must be around, so he should be careful. But the stalker replied that he knew because he wasn't stupid, and continued to watch the Alpha and realized that she was fast, but he couldn't figure out where she was going. And when he looked closely, he saw she had a great ass, and now he knows why they call her the tempting ghost. But at that time, our hero was on the edge of the house and watched the stalker who was following his partner Alpha. You even realize he only has 3 rounds. He just has to follow his partner's instructions. But as soon as the stalker passed our hero, he hesitated. Not at that moment, the girl turned around and began to stare at the pursuer, who with his weapon stood directly in front of her. And lowering his weapon, he began to tell her what a surprise she was to him, and what the hell kind of hell she was. Our hero, hiding around the corner, could not understand what he should do now. because without the instructions of his partner, he does not know how to act correctly to attack from the back or to wait. But at this time, the stalker came closer to Alpha, and raising his hand, he began to say that she looked like the real thing. But with a wave of his hand, he realized it was just a hologram and that he couldn't even touch it. But at that time, from the corner appeared our hero, who was holding a gun in his hand. But noticing this, Alpha began to tell him to stay where he was, because it was too early to attack. But it was too late. He jumped out from around the corner and took aim to attack his enemy. But he didn't expect the stalker to turn around and shoot back. And after a few shots, the man started screaming that he was bloody in the snot and how dare he attack him, and behind his backs. But in one unexpected moment, he couldn't understand what was happening to his body right now. On contacting his partner, he started telling him that he was distracted by the girl, and the kid attacked him from behind, and his partner called him an idiot. And that he realized that it was a trap and began to tell his partner to listen carefully, because it looked like he had instructed her to distract him. Meanwhile, he's using it as a guidance system. On the other hand, the partner starts saying that it's the girl who's near him now, and that's to their advantage, and he has to use it to corner the punk because they'll never get another chance. But looking at the girl, he realized it sounded like fun and he's in. But at this time, hiding behind the nearest corner, our hero began to take medication, but still he could not understand how he could not hit after several shots. But at that moment, he heard the voice of his alpha partner asking how early he was and why he didn't listen to her. But wrapping up his wound, he replied that he had simply overestimated himself, but the Alpha told him that next time he should do as she said. Pressing my wound to make it heal faster, Alpha said the regenerative medicine works fast, so he has plenty of time. And now she's leading the stalker straight to him, and he should be in place and waiting for them. However, the plan just got a little more dangerous, so he needs to get ready. And the fact that he's the doer, and he has to calculate every option and every angle he can jump out of to finish that guy off. And he should leave the rest to his partner Alpha because this time he'll be able to destroy it. And just as she started to walk towards the nearest door, the guy asked her how much further they had to go. But she never said anything in response to pause. And turning towards the entrance of the room, she extended her index finger and started to show him that he should go that way. But the guy couldn't understand if that brat was in that room. And when he looked around the corner, he saw the blood drops and realized the guy was definitely around. And jumping out from around the corner, he started firing all his rounds in the direction where he thought our hero was standing. At this time, the same guy outside started hearing a lot of gunshots and couldn't figure out where they were coming from or what was even going on there. But once he got his clip in, he couldn't figure out where the guy was and started turning his head in different directions. Turning around, he started yelling loudly at Alf about how that guy wasn't supposed to be where he was shooting at. But lowering his head a little lower, he saw that from the girl's chest began to appear a pistol that slowly pointed straight at his head. And before he could react, a lot of bullets flew straight into him, and he started to feel a huge pain in his body. And after a few shots, he still fell to the ground and stopped moving, and all he could do was tell his partner he was shot. But still he couldn't understand if the girl was the shooter because she was just an image. But when he looked closely, he saw a guy start to get out from behind her. And the fact that he was just hiding behind her because she was just an image, he didn't have time to react and didn't see him. And while he was looking at the door she was pointing at, this guy got under her dress and hid there. And he couldn't believe that he'd been tricked by some boy, but he didn't scream for long because our hero simply drew his weapon and finished him off. And as soon as it was over, our hero began to lower his weapon because one stalker was finished. But still there was another who was outside, and in a panic he could not understand what was going on inside because the connection with his partner was broken, and now he would have to go upstairs and check what happened there. But after looking at his enemy, our hero couldn't quite believe that he had actually shot that guy. But his partner said that they should quickly strip him of his gear and replenish his ammunition. And after he's done, he should take his body and throw it out the window. But the Fat couldn't understand why he had to do it, but there wasn't enough time, and Alpha told him to hurry up. And outside, the other stalker couldn't figure out if there was a firefight inside, and that there was no news from his partner now. And just as he stepped over the powder building, he heard something fall from several stories behind him. And turning around, he saw that it was his partner he was just about to go to, and doesn't realize the fact that it's a punk trying to provoke him. And yet the stalker was very angry because he didn't understand how the brat had managed to destroy his partner. At the top of the building, Alpha started telling our hero not to sell the knife he found in the ruins and to keep it for himself. But he didn't fully understand what knife she was talking about. Could it be the relic he'd recently found with her help? And she said that's right, and he should kill the second hunter with that knife, and that he could shoot the protruding part of the handle. But Hero didn't realize wouldn't it break after that. And maybe it's a relic too. If you sell it, you can get a lot of money. But Alpha said there's a chance he'll try to kill it a third time. Meanwhile, the second pursuer was getting higher and higher, but he realized that if the girl was with the brat, they must know where he was. But taking out his gadget, the hunter began to watch the beacon that moved on his watch face. And smiling strangely, he realized that that idiot had taken not only his weapon, but also his communicator, and that it was a stupid oversight, and that was his plus. Now he would find it safely, and will be able to outsmart them that way, and now all you have to do is just walk down a long corridor and get to the place. But as soon as he came around the corner, he saw the communicator lying on the ground, and that he realized that the guy had spotted the chase and threw it away. Or maybe it's just a trap, but he's not stupid enough to fall for it. And that an ambush in such a place would be to their advantage, but suddenly he noticed that some strange laser was rushing right at his feet. And as if something quick and sharp had cut his stomach, but he couldn't realize what had happened until the end, because everything happened very fast. But as soon as the wall collapsed, he saw in front of him a guy who was standing with a knife in his hands, which because of the vibration, some strange. Alpha started to tell our hero that he did well and he managed to finish off his pursuer. But our hero, who was holding a knife in his hand, realized that he had fallen to pieces. And jumping over the pillar, he began to ask his partner what kind of knife it was, to which she replied that it was from the old world. If you destroy the protective layer, it will release incredible power. And approached the second stalker, he started taking his weapons and saying that old world relics are awesome. But he turned his head and saw Alpha pointing her finger straight at him and saying, "What exactly?" because next time he could be cut in half and he should be careful. But he didn't know what to do. But Alpha replied that it's all because of her support and he should say something. He said he's only alive because of her and he's very glad he met her. And once the conversation was over, the Alpha finally said they should grab a couple more relics and head back to town. A little later it was told that in the neighborhood, they found the corpse of a huge gun dog. And whether 5 or M in length, in any case, just a huge dog. And some hunters thought it was just some kind of trick, because they live in the depths of the ruins. And it's true what they say that the group was destroyed because of this thing, but some hunters thought it was nonsense. Because did someone deliberately set that huge dog on those guys? Or he's just trying to cover up a conflict between hunters, and they know it's unrealistic to sick such a machine on someone, and ours will kill whoever tries to do it. Although some thought their ghosts would do that. Speaking of ghosts, one of the hunters started saying there were rumors of a ghost temptation or something. But at this time in Kugomayama in the lower level of the hunter's office buying relics, our hero came to the very place he had been recently, and the man behind the counter started saying that if he had a hunter's license, he should show it. But as soon as he turned around, he saw the same boy who had come to see him the other day, and he realized he didn't recognize him right away. Although if you look closely, he looks a little different now. And taking the relic in his hand, he began to tell our hero that it is very thin and last time he was just lucky. But Shifat replied that it may be thin, but the relic of the old world and he should get grapes for it much more than for the last time. But suddenly our hero couldn't understand what he'd heard about being lucky last time. But the man said what they appraised the past relic and plus money for this one. He'll get this gold coins. And that it's not often that a punk like that gets that kind of money and that he should spend it wisely. So the way they're done now, he can get the hell out of here. And he went outside to look at all the corners because he'd never kept such a huge amount of money on him before. But Alpha. And why is he so worried about that money? Why would she say that? Gold is a lot of money, but Alpha didn't think so, telling him it wasn't money at all. And the fact that with her support, he can earn unconditional sums he never dreamed of, and that he has to realize at the end of the day what she's telling him. But as soon as he agreed with her, the Alpha went on to say that generally it had been a hard day and they should find the Nocturnals, and that at the end of the day, she should teach him how to manage his money properly. And as soon as they rented a normal hotel with normal comfort, our hero sat down on the bed and turning his head, he began to tell her that he is so unusual to be here. But Alpha replied that he should get used to it, there's no need to sleep in a back alley. But he collapsed on the bed, started to say that he just couldn't believe he had to pay for the night, but Alpha thought it was worth it. But now he can start by taking a bath and finally getting some rest, because tomorrow is a long day. And that if he wants her to help him in more than just combat, but as soon as he heard the words bathroom, at first he lay in the same position. But suddenly he began to realize that he'd been dreaming about the bathroom for ages. He jumped out of bed and started running straight to the other room. And in the bathroom, he finally decided to rest, but he was still worried about the fact that he'd paid 0,000,000 for the night. Well, all that was interrupted by the fact that he was feeling pretty good now that he hadn't had a bath in a long time. But suddenly Alpha appeared, and noticing this, our hero started telling her that even though she's an augmented reality object, she can take a bath somewhere else. But she suddenly said, doesn't he care about her presence right now? But also the fact that if he falls asleep in the bathtub, he could drown in the water and it's better for him to go to bed. And rising from the bath, our hero said a few words to Alpha as he left, that he thought well of it and would sign a contract with her to take over the old ones. But Alpha wasn't the least bit surprised at such words, only asked what had he finally confided in her. And he turned his head around and told her it was probably true. But there's also the fact that it's useless to go there now and Alpha should wait until he's stronger. Alpha thought it over and said they needed to buy good gear first. The next day, when our hero was sleeping soundly, Alpha appeared near him and started to say that she wished him a good morning, and if he had slept well, he could get up already. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he suddenly jumped up from his seat shouting where he was. But Alpha replied that he was now in a hotel room, and now they'll have a good breakfast and then they'll go get their gear. A little later on the lower level in a hunting store that was called a Cartridge Freak, the girl who was at the cash register started greeting our hero and asking, "Is it really his first time here?" And her name is Shizuka. And what are they looking for specifically since they came to her store? But picking up his weapon, our hero started saying that he wanted to get a set of ammunition for his weapon, and also he would like to sell some of the weapons in his arsenal. But looking at our hero, the girl realized that this boy is from the slums and that he's a hunter. And as she picked up the machine, she started saying that she understood that they wanted to sell it, but if they put it in for maintenance, it would last a long time. But Alpha leaned over to our hero and said that he would use it to the fullest, so better get a new one. And immediately our hero told the girl that he would like to get a new machine. And the girl started pulling out a new gun, saying that with the cost of the old one. That's 000 gold, and here's his machine he asked for. And the fact that it is inexpensive, easy to handle, and rarely fails, and that it is the best in its category and quite popular among hunters. And the girl started to ask him if he'd like to try on these she's about to show him. And even though this outfit is a little big, if it's fitted, it'll be just right. And the fact that it was a gift to him from her store and that it's a little damp, so it's not for sale. But if he feels uncomfortable, he can come over more often. But our hero was very much excited and surprised that she gave him such things for free. And as soon as he left the store, the girl behind the cash register looked at him and realized that he was so small and already a hunter, and that he would soon survive and become a regular customer at her store. But at that time in the hotel, Alpha started saying that now they will have training sessions, and she will continue to help him since they have formally signed a contract. And inspecting his weapon, our hero remembered the words she said that he had trusted her, because he still doesn't understand how Alpha can exist. And that when he was wounded, she said she used up all her strength to keep him from dying, and she wasn't lying and wants him to take over the old ruins by any means necessary. And that if Alpha meets a better hunter, she won't need him, so he'll have to get a lot stronger. But at that moment, Alpha stood up and began to speak to our hero, that she was about to explain to him something very important about the contract, and he should listen carefully. And at that moment, her eyes lit up, and she began to say that he was sure he wanted to perform in a wide range of operations without prior consent to ensure the implementation of extended support. And this also includes the use of level 5 personal information. Consent to receive additional information is not required. Just because he's sure he wants to perform a wide range of operations without prior authorization. In a room with large windows, a girl looks up at a glowing figure. To impoverish the reality of extended support, she thinks. Alpha looks at the mysterious figure with interest. "Ah," shooters quietly. The second, frightened, breathing heavily as if after an ordeal. Phew. Her relief is palpable. The mysterious figure is calming. "Thank you, Alpha, I'm not hostile." A voice in space responds, "Akira, come here." No answer. Alpha, though puzzled, decides to accept the offer. "I wasn't quite sure what she meant, but I've decided to make a contract with her." The creature explains the terms with a smile. "So, Akira, you'll have access to various support functions once you're contracted." Alpha nods incredulously. "Telepathy? Like telepathy, for example." Her gaze is full of doubt. "Try mentally talking to me," the figure calmly offers, watching his reaction. Akira, having experienced his new ability, opens his eyes wide. "Alpha?" He's surprised and excited. Akira marvels at the new skill. "The most convenient thing is that your thoughts are instantly transmitted to me." He realizes the potential. If we practice, we can transmit even over long distances. The speed and accuracy of information transfer is very important during battle. Cool. They stand on the devastated ground. Another function is firing support, the creature informs them. Alpha points at the target. 100 meters away lies a small pebble. Where? She's testing his abilities. Akira is puzzled. "Alpha, what's wrong with my eyesight? How is that possible? What did you do?" Alpha confidently explains, "With my support, it has been improved." She points to the ground. "Look carefully at the area circled by the green border. Wait until the pebble is circled in red, then shoot," she instructs, instructing Akira. Alpha prompts, "The blue line is a ballistic projection. The closer it is to the target, the greater the likelihood of an accurate hit." Akira concentrated and fired. The flash from the gunshot cut the air. "Missed!" Akira states disappointedly, the bullet has changed trajectory. "You want to beat real monsters? Aim better then." Alpha keeps him from getting discouraged. "Go tit," he replies, preparing for a new challenge. Akira tries to change the subject. "That saleswoman who was charging with you, is she your type?" Alpha doesn't give in to provocation. Nah, you can't fool me. She goes back to teaching. Okay, now do you understand everything about telepathy and scaling? Akira is still mulling over what he's heard when Alpha announces, let's clarify something. The main condition of the contract is to capture some of the difficult parts of the ruin. Alpha persistently reminds, don't forget that, okay? But both the relics and my perfect support are just a down payment. Akira nods thoughtfully. Do you have any more questions? He admits, honestly, there's a sea of them, but you'll explain when the time comes. Alpha is ready to move on to the next stage. Let's talk about future plans and in particular training. Well then, Alpha voices the plan. The first week will mostly be looking for archaeological sites. She adds, the rest of our time will be spent practicing and studying. In your case, we'll start with reading and writing. Alpha continued, prioritizing. Follow me, Akira. Until you fulfill the condition of your contract, I will support you, she concludes. Akira, studying the document, is surprised. By the way, there's a mistake here on my hunting license. He shows his ID. Why a Jirpa? Alpha smiles. But at least I can read, so I've learned something. Akira looks at her appreciatively. Looks like you've gotten more accurate. Feeling good is a very important thing, notes Alpha. Alpha says firmly, okay, let's move on. Suddenly, a giant entity appears in front of them. A gun dog. The dog lunges to attack, its menacing growl filling the air. Akira prepares to fight, pointing his weapon at the monster. Alpha looks at Akira with confidence, urging him to calm down. Calm down, it's just augmented reality, just like me. Don't be frightened. She continues his training, pointing out the importance of adapting. You need to get used to the unexpected, while they both bounce back from the monster's attack. Akira, wide-eyed, realizes the risks. Or else you'll end up like this, Alpha says, implying lethal. She guides his actions in battle. Aim for the weak spot is strategic advice in the moment of combat. Alpha puts a hard emphasis on the survival lesson. You will die on a counterattack if you don't deprive your opponent of at least half of his combat abilities. She emphasizes the seriousness of the setting. Unless this happen in real combat, you miss, you're done. Akira is sympathetic to his training, recognizing the need to improve his skills. Train harder. With the danger over, Alpha turns his attention to a new threat. Someone is headed this way. Akira, practice is over. Akira, peering into the approaching transport, is nervous. Hunters, have they really come for him? 2 girl hunters. Alpha analyzes the situation. I think they just came to the ruins of Kuzusukara, but let's hide somewhere just in case. She warns of the potential threat. If they're hostile, there's nowhere for us to run here. Shifting to a calmer setting, they discuss plans. It's okay, Elena, I'm just worried. Sarah, how are you? Elena reflects on her observations. Her receptacle with the tightening of the nanomachines has gotten so small. She's definitely fine. She worries about their companion's condition. So just in case, I chose simpler ruins to examine, she continues, pondering her steps. The remaining drag of the nanomachines should be enough, barring anything unforeseen. In the car, they discuss plans. Well, no. This way, we won't be able to explore the ruins at all, and then things will definitely be bad. If we don't find anything this time either, I'll sell the gear and buy you nanomachines. They leave, continuing their mission. Yep, Sarah, Elena, let's just hope these rumors are true. Akira exclaims in surprise. More hunters? Why are there so many people here? Alpha rushes Shim. Akira would need to Movion. They observe other people. Rumor has it that a certain slum boy is bringing expensive relics to sell, so they apparently decided to check it out. Akira is shocked at the realization. A certain slum boy, it's me. Alpha continues. Although these neighborhoods have been exhausted, many people have decided to check them out again just in case there are undiscovered places here that the little ones might be lured to. And those rumors are the reason they came here? The Alpha urges the action. It's time to go, Akira. Akira repeats in bewilderment. Again. Night descends on the ruined city and Alpha asks the question, Alpha, what now? They stop at the ruins and Alpha shares his thoughts. Eventually, the hunters will decide it's just a rumor and give up. But the situation remains tense as the 2 Huntress girls are still in the neighborhood. But the Setwa girls are still here, Alpha states. Alpha cautions Akira. They are very experienced and are following you around. Well, I don't want to meet them yet. I've had enough battles with hunters. Akira asks with concern in her voice. But it won't be long before everything here is destroyed. What makes you think that? Alpha expresses her doubts. Honestly, I'm not sure. The colorless fog is getting thicker and thicker, and the other hunters are about to leave. Is it worth continuing the search? Akira reacts surprised at her words. Speaking of which, what's with the colorless mist? Alpha explains the current situation. Do you see the haze around you? This is the influence of colorless fog. The high concentration of this fog not only causes communication with radio waves, but it drowns out even sounds and is engulfing. She emphasizes the difficulties posed by the fog. In too dense fog, Sometimes even the naked eye can see bullets flying by. In addition, the power of firearms is also downgraded, range of vision is reduced, and marksmanship drops. Akira realizes the seriousness of their situation. At worst, you, Akira, will spot the monster faster than me. If his search ability is reduced, Alpha makes a disturbing conclusion. And worst of all, my search ability is greatly reduced. Akira realizes that their chances of survival are getting worse. Then our chances of survival are slim to none. Alpha tries to instill confidence in Akira. Okay, but that's the order of the day here, remember. Suddenly there is a murmur. Alpha, what's going on in there? Akira sees a new threat. A huge monster has appeared. That's not good. Did the hunters piss him off? Alpha offers a plan of action. Let's leave right now. Looks like he's headed for those huntress girls. Amidst the destruction of tall buildings, where broken beams fell like huge arrows from the sky, there they stood, Aya and Sarah. The debris of the past around them was a reminder of the storms this world had experienced. Sarah, it's time to go back already, Aya said, looking at the girl with a warm gaze. Sarah nodded, but you could see the hesitation in her eyes. They both knew that safety was temporary. Sorry, the search area, we should have gotten here sooner. Saren's voice shook. Regret and pain from past mistakes reverberated in her words. Aya squeezed her hand in a show of support. It's okay, let's go back, just be careful. Aya tried to reassure her and they exchanged looks full of hope. There was everything in that look, a promise of loyalty and a willingness to protect each other to the very end. Suddenly, a deafening noise broke the silence. Buildings began to collapse even harder. Shots fired! Aya stared at Sarah in horror, looking for confirmation of his fears. Elena, do you understand anything? Sarah seemed oblivious to everything in the world except the danger of the devastation. Wait, there's 8 hunters and 1 monster. Her eyes widened with fear and she squeezed Aya's hand, preparing for the worst. And then, a picture of chaos opened before them. Hunters armed to the teeth were fighting a terrifying monster. They're heading this way. Explosions and gunshots filled the air, and a new chapter in their fight for survival began. Sarah grabbed Aya's shoulder, her voice filled with terror. Let's break in, man. What kind of maniac? They only make him angry. Aya looked at her, determination and fear struggling in his eyes. Sarah, are you normal? If that's the case, we'll have to intervene. Let's finish him off. Sarah gathered her wits. I'll solve everything with 1 shot. Her voice was full of despair, but also hope for a quick end to the conflict. Aya picked up his weapon. Move aside, he shouted, taking aim and preparing to fire. This moment will determine the outcome of the air bout. An explosion ripped the ground, and Aya's shout pierced the air. Bullseye! They were surrounded by smoke and dust, the echoes of the battle still lingering. Aya and Sarah, covering each other, rushed to the side, trying to find cover from the sudden explosion. Did something fall down? No, I don't see. Sarah peered through the dusty veil, her gaze focused and wary. And then out of the smoke, a grenade flew at them. A grenade? Shock froze in Aya's eyes. Time seemed to slow down. The fate of both of them hung in the balance. With his heart quickening, Aya lunged at Sarah, pushing her out of the path of the grenade. Helena! His scream merged with the sound of the explosion that shook the ground. They fell to the ground, a cloud of dust rising around them. Sarah lay unconscious, her face pale, the shadow of a smile frozen on her lips. She knew he had saved her. In the distance, the silhouettes of hunters loomed against the destruction like guards in this chaotic world. Aya, clutching the grenade in his hand, realized that his decision had changed the course of events. He has protected them both, but the war is not over. Sarah, Aya whispered softly, squeezing her hand as she fought for every breath. You came. His voice shook, seeing her struggle, knowing he'd done everything he could to protect her. They say the eastern districts can treat diseases by injecting nanomachines. Talk of new technology crept through the fog of pain. Looks like you're already feeling better thanks to Eastern technology. Sarah's voice was full of hope as she watched him recover. Looks like the doctors added something else. What kind of reinforcements are these? Surprise caught Ayu off guard as he began to realize the changes in his body. If you use external devices, you'll have to go through other body modifications. Aya looked at his hands where new implants gaped in them. Sarah touched his face, trying to comfort him. Go. This is where they put the nanomachines. Stop. His tone was soft, despite all the changes, remaining human at heart. And then, amidst the ruins, they heard the sound of approaching footsteps. Sarah turned around and saw the figures of the military. Her amazement reflected in the single sign as a new threat confronted them. Sarah? Aya suddenly realized that Sarah had disappeared from his sight, a collapsed wall separating them. Helena! Sarah! He shouted, trying to find her among the dust and debris, his heart frozen with fear. He saw her falling amidst the destruction. and in that moment his instincts compelled him to act. 2 pistols appeared in his hands, the epitome of new strength and determination. The willingness to protect loved ones was above anything else. Aya was firing with desperation in his eyes, trying to fight off his attackers, each shot a fight for life. He shrieked, feeling the storm of pain from the explosion of the hand grenade tearing through his body. "Drop your weapons and come out, or else we'll shoot her," a gruff voice boomed out as the military took Sarah hostage. "Sarah, forget about me, just aim them, don't give up." Aya shouted to her despite the pain and fear, urging her to fight to the end. Aya, clutching his gun in his hands, faced a choice. "Come on out!" The military's voices were full of menace, their weapons ready to fire. His mind was churning. If I really forget about Elena and suddenly fight, I can win, but they might actually kill her. The dilemma of risking everything or trying to save them both. "Hey, are you two here too because of those rumors about the slum boy and relics?" One of the soldiers was clearly interested not only in their fate, but in what they were looking for. "If you want to stay alive, drop the gun and come out. We can't come back empty-handed, so I think your gear will suit us just fine." The ultimatum was clear, but for I, it wasn't just a choice between life and death, but between honor and betrayal. I have to save Elena, but how? Sarah was paralyzed with fear and uncertainty, her thoughts darting around looking for a way out. "That's it, that's enough, I'll shoot her!" The menacing voice of the soldier holding a gun to her head filled the air with tension. "Wait!" shouted Aya, daring to make a bold move. He couldn't let Elena get hurt because of him. In a last desperate effort, he dropped his weapon and raised his hands in surrender, trying to buy time and find an opportunity for escape. With every step the enemies took, Aya knew, the less distance between us, the better my chances of defeating them even with my bare hands. "Armor, stop, take off the armor too." The enemy commander seemed nervous, not expecting Aya to be dangerous without a weapon. "In my opinion, these are the perfect clothes in which you can safely endure a grenade explosion and remain without a scratch. I don't want to be beaten to death with this armor, so take it off, just slowly." The soldier was confident in his words, but not in the situation. Aya realized their delusion. He decided my hazmat suit was armor, okay. Realization flashed in his eyes and he began to forge a plan. Aya slowly removed the top of his suit, distracting his enemy's attention for a moment. If he doesn't realize it's not the clothes, it's the modified body. He was counting on the element of surprise. At this time, Sarah, still in the hands of her enemies, heard their rude taunts. "And she looks like a guy, ha ha ha, where did you put your boobs?" Sarah suddenly flared up in anger, unable to tolerate their insults. "Hey you have no idea what she's been through." One of her captors ordered her to shut up, but you could see the unwavering determination in her eyes, and in that moment, Aya knew that it was that fire in her that could be their salvation. The enemy holding Sarah said confidently, "Well, come here." Aya cried out in despair as the feeling of the power of the nanomachines filled him. Energy was rolling through his body, preparing him for the fight. The soldiers were stunned by the sudden burst of power from Aya, their faces contorted with shock. "She's a nanomachine carrier," one of them said with a sneer, not realizing the situation was getting out of hand. "Even without clothes, she has the same physical abilities as a person in armor. If you don't want trouble from her, stay out of it." Aya knew that now that his opponents had realized that he and Sarah were far more dangerous than they first appeared, the moment of truth would come. Sarah, freeing herself, threw a punch full of determination and nanomachine-trained strength. Nanomachines focus on wound care. Her voice was weak, but her actions were swift and precise, reflecting her unwavering will. "I'm sorry, I promised." Aya, weakening, fell to his knees. His strength was waning, but he knew that Sarah would be able to keep fighting. Around them, the military men froze, puzzled by what was happening. "Colorless mist is already thickening," one of them warned as their time was running out and they must finish their business. A sudden explosion of power and determination descended upon the enemies as Sarah used her nanomachines to direct a strike against them. Sarah's power surprised her enemies, leaving them in a state of shock. "A gunshot?" One of the soldiers couldn't believe what had happened. Sarah and Aya stood together, ready for more fighting, their look saying that they would not give up without a fight. Is there anyone else of yours here?" The enemy was clearly shaken and unsure of how to proceed, realizing that he was facing opponents far more dangerous than anticipated. In a momentary flash of movement and defiance, Sarah lunged at her enemy, her facial features full of determination. Her actions were precise, achieved through amplification by nanomachines. She was as fast as lightning amidst the chaos. Her sudden and explosive counterattack sent a wave of shock through the ranks of the enemies. "Fuck!" one of them shouted out, dumbfounded by the unexpected fury of her attack. With her comrade by her side, Sarah stood unwavering. Who outshot them? What's going on? She demanded answers, her voice cutting through the battle noise, ready to keep fighting. As she prepared for battle, she assumed a fighting stance, weapon in hand, embodying the indomitable will to survive and defend that had brought them this far. Her eyes, full of battle fire, remained fixed on the enemy, challenging them to advance. The enemies were assessing the situation, testing their remaining strength. Alpha, how much more to go? One of them asked, awaiting the report. 3 killed, 5 more men left. The other reported, keeping his weapon at the ready and keeping his guard up. It's dead, 5 alive, came a distinct voice, indicating that the battle was far from over. Continue firing on them when we're beyond the range of their detectors, was the order as they began to retreat, trying to get themselves out of direct hit. The battle tactics were simple but effective. They'll have a hard time spotting you in this fog, the voice said, confident in the advantage the surroundings gave. Vote of us, if you shoot from where I say, they sure won't be able to detect you, the strategist added, thinking over each step. Shit! Where's that guy shooting from? Shouted the enemies, puzzled by the stealthy threat. They were losing their bearings, unable to determine the source of the unexpected attack. So you can eliminate them while remaining undetected. Bye-bye. The last exclamation was an order to action, a call for a decisive and furtive retaliation. The screams of the enemies tore the air. Yeah! The unit was caught off guard, vulnerable and discouraged. A focused fighter, stealthy and vigilant, gave commands. Keep following my instructions, and remember, if you're spotted, you are finished. I believe you can do it. Under the cover of gunfire, they moved with caution and determination, knowing that their every action could mean the difference between life and death. With a strained gaze full of determination, the fighter turned for confirmation. Alpha, where do you want me to shoot next? His willingness and ability to act decisively was clear. There's tension in the air. The boy's eyes, full of anxiety and determination, seemed to be searching for answers to unspoken questions. Alpha, where do you want me to shoot next? His thoughts are louder than his words. Standing nearby, Alpha, a creature with noble features and a look full of bewilderment, responds with a vague gesture. Their views are intertwined. A mutual misunderstanding reads in them. A boy whose kindness is as evident as his youth faces the question of his own courage. Why are you looking like that? Are you mad that I helped those girls? Alpha replies with a note of disappointment in his voice. Helping others is a good thing, not really. The unspoken words between them create a bridge that only the heart can cross. However, what? Alpha's eyes reflect the excitement she tries to hide. The words hang in the air, ready to fall heavy on the boy's fragile shoulders. It would be problematic if you died without fulfilling your part of the contract, but you're too weak. Alpha looks straight into his eyes, her words like an icy shower to his courage. Didn't tell you, just what about it? It would be problematic if you died, did I? Her words are cut short as she tries to maintain equanimity. Ah! The boy apparently realizes the gravity of the situation. His face reflects a mix of confusion and epiphany as he begins to realize the full weight of his actions. With his head down, the boy resigns himself to the inevitable. Alpha paid me in advance after all. His words are as heavy as the decision he's making. All right, let's get this over with before the fog clears. The Alpha's determination leaves no room for doubt. They must act while they have the chance. Uh-huh. Was that the last one? A boy with a rifle in his hands ready for the next step. His no read not fear but concentration. I'm sorry you had to help me. Let's go home. The boy's words sound like a farewell to a battle he hasn't finished yet, but has already realized its true cost. Alpha, without losing his seriousness, is looking for answers. Just tell me, why do you suddenly want to help them so badly? What moved you? The boy shares his concerns with hurt in his eyes. Since these people, they might attack me one day, right? Then wouldn't it be better if they died? He continues, trying to reinforce his decision. Here I realized I'd restore it a little if I helped those girls. You said I was very lucky, right? Okay, let's get back already. Good, Alpha says, and there is a glimmer of understanding and agreement with the boy's choice in her eyes. Alpha reflects on the boy's past actions. However, he immediately changed his mind when I mentioned those people. Her words echoed in the void. They leave the last vestiges of the battle behind them. He didn't kill those people to save the girls. He saved the girls so he could kill them, she continues, and her eyes flicker with doubt and a realization of the complexity of human motives. I obviously shouldn't become his enemy in any way. What intense hatred. The boy realizes the depth of his feelings and the difficulty of choosing between life and death. The gunshots have subsided. Is it all over? The Alpha looks around at the destruction, and in her words you can hear the hope for an end to the conflict and a return to peaceful life. The Alpha, weakening, turns to the boy. "Are you all right, Sarah? The nanomachines have healed my wounds, but I can't move yet." Her voice is weak and filled with worry. "I'll be right back," he yells as he runs away. His steps are determined and quick, and his heart is full of anxiety for his companion. Suddenly, one of the girls the boy had saved runs toward them. The atmosphere is tense and unpredictable. Am I going to be able to outrun her? The boy thinks, and there is determination and fear in his eyes. He realizes that every action he takes can change the outcome of this story. Alpha points to the side, warning Sarah. "She's on the other side of the wall, but she'll attack you anyway." Her voice is full of urgency. "Don't go." The boy hesitates, but his resolve grows stronger. He knows he must act. "You should work on your handwriting," he remarks jokingly, trying to ease the tension of the moment, trying to take his mind off the danger. "Will it work, do you think?" Sarah stares at the inscription, hoping that a simple word can stop the inevitable. "Now aliens, read my not-so-big load." He's preparing for a new challenge. Alpha looks at the object in his hands with bewilderment. "What's that?" Her look of confusion. Seeing the inscription, she is even more surprised. "Is that it?" Her reaction leaves room for interpretation. Sarah seems to have a thought of something unusual. She looks around the place where the battle had just been fought. A bullet and a piece of paper, here to wait the writing or for a warning. Her thoughts weave in an attempt to understand the situation. "You're the one who saved us, aren't you? Thank you." Her eyes suddenly filled with gratitude. "And I'm sorry, but can't you help a little more?" Her voice is shaky with weakness, but there is hope for help. Puzzled, Alpha holds up a small object. The cure? Does he want us to use him? She's trying to understand Sarah's intentions. The next moment, we see Sarah running through the ruined streets, rushing to help despite the danger around her. After returning, Alpha is relieved to notice. "Glad the medicine worked." "Thank you, Elena. I'm better now," Sarah replies, his condition noticeably improved. "Who would even just give me something like that for nothing? It has proven to be very effective." Alpha reflects on the unexpected rescue and where the miracle cure came from. Alpha's silhouette is rendered against a backdrop of ruins. "I don't know who you are, but the day will come and I'll be sure to thank you." She promises to honor the invisible savior. The city of Kugamama is slowly recovering from the devastation. Life flows, people return to routine, but traces of the past are still visible. "This will be your 10th Ralk exchange here." A voice from the past reminds him of hard times, of struggles and what was lost. "My name is Akira, right, Akira?" There is a sense of confidence and readiness in his voice for new beginnings, for a new chapter in their lives after the storms. "Here's the map and card," the man says, handing the important documents to Akira. His face is friendly and helpful. "Oh, so the name on the hunter's card is wrong? Today, that's exactly what you can fix." He offers a solution to the paperwork problem that has arisen. "You just need to register by simply handing this card to the local staff," he instructs Akira, explaining the next steps. "Well, what else is there? And while you're still here, The man gazed thoughtfully at Akira, contemplating his next course of action. "Well, just behave yourself, okay?" He admonishes Akira, emphasizing his words with a benevolent gesture. Akira's eyes reflect gratitude and slight bewilderment at the unexpected help. A building looms before us, imposing and monolithic. If the map is to be believed, this is the right building, Akira thought as he gazed at its outline. This building, built into the protective wall, is a key economic link between the outer and inner walls. The information on the building spoke of its critical role to the city. "This is the hunter's office. It's a different office, right? It's very different from the one I know." Akira is perplexed, comparing it to more familiar places. Inside the office is bustling, power suits and nanomachines that enhance their bodies. Local hunters are on a whole other level, Nenelon and Impalas. There's a lot of work going on around here, and the best of the best are here. They've mastered the most dangerous ruins and come back in one piece every time like nothing happened. That's how strong they are. The people around them discuss the skill and strength of the hunters who have gone through many trials. In a huge room replete with lights and technology stands Alpha. "I was told to show you this." Her voice echoes in a space filled with anticipation. She turns to Akira with a question and a smile. "Well, so you're Akira-san?" Yeah," he replies, a little confused by the attention he's getting. No, my name is Akira. They made a mistake in my name when I registered." He quickly corrects the situation, admitting to a little confusion. "To begin with, congratulations on obtaining the 10th rank of Hunter. Well, Akira-san." Her words are full of magnanimity and approval as she hands him the recognition he deserves. Wait, wasn't I real? Akira puzzled, turning to Alpha. His question reflects a mixture of surprise and self-irony. Now you're a real hunter, not a self-proclaimed one. Unfortunately, yes, Alpha jokes, recognizing his accomplishments. And yet, what did I do that got me promoted? Akira's bewilderment grows, a look of genuine bewilderment in his eyes. These are all the relics you traded. High-rank hunters can buy gear that is not available to ranks below. You'll even be able to take assignments with a higher level of access. It has its perks, Alpha explains, demonstrating the importance of his new status. Before we correct your name, please state it again, she asks, confirming his identity with a smile. Akira. He says his name quietly but confidently as he stands before the Alpha, in the heart of this modern building filled with radiance and possibility. The changes will take effect temporarily until the primary registration date. This information will be added today as additional information, Alpha explains, clarifying the details of the procedure. Your registered name will be used as an identifier of your identity, she continues, emphasizing the importance of accuracy in documents. Also, your family, country, city, and class information will be tied to it. Given all that, Alpha pauses, waiting for Akira's confirmation. Do you really want to change your name to Akira? She asks the crucial question while Akira, with his back turned to her, ponders his answer. With the backdrop of streets filled with traces of past battles, Akira remembers his loneliness. I've always been lonely. I don't have a family or even memories of one. The only thing I have is my name, Akira, and no one even calls me him. He turns to Alpha, his eyes full of determination. My name is Akira. Register this name. That's the end of the registration. I will pray for your success, Akira-san. Alpha finishes the process, filling his words with confidence in Akira's future. So, how does it feel to be a rank 10 hunter, Akira? She addresses him with mild interest as they leave the building. So far, I feel like I'm too much. It only happened because of your support, Akira replies, recognizing that his success would not have been possible without her help. Alpha, with a light laugh, teases Akira by holding up his hunter card. That's right, only because of me. However, this hunter's card is a big step for me who had nothing until today. That's wonderful, Akira. She acknowledges his successes, while at the same time reminding him of his humble beginnings. Now that you bought a hunting terminal, you need to figure out how to use it, okay? Alpha reminds Akira of the next important step in his new life. Akira, with visible confusion, looks at the terminal. And why are you in the monitor? He's surprised at her sudden appearance in an unexpected place. This will probably calm things down, so get out of there, he says, barely hiding his excitement in the face of new technology and possibilities. Alpha explains to Akira the capabilities of his new device. Sometimes corporations or hunters will send their assignments to him that way. With it, a hunter can collect, change, share, and even buy information about ruins and monsters, she says, giving him a new perspective on the hunting world. You're probably wondering why hunters need this thing, Alpha continues, seeing his interested look. Wait, stop inundating me with information. You can even use it to download a map of the ruins from the internet, Akira exclaimed, overwhelmed by the information he had to digest. No, therefore tomorrow we go to the ruins. Plus I spent so much money to buy this terminal. Will everything be all right? He asks, concerned about his financial outlay. And since your shooting has improved, I'll be adding more training to your menu tomorrow, Alpha concludes, pushing Akira to take on new challenges and further improve himself. To become more accurate, you will learn to move without my support in detecting the enemy. Alpha sets a new goal for Akira, designed to increase his independence and skill. Akira, with amazement on his face, exclaims, Just imagine I won't be around tomorrow. It won't, that's why you need to practice. Are you sure it's going to be all right? Alpha convinces him to train on his own to become stronger. The scene takes us to the outskirts of the ruins of Kuzusuhara, where the anticipation of the next day and the trials ahead hangs in the air. Akira examines the ruins through binoculars. Seems clear, no monsters. Check the situation with binoculars, he reminds himself to be vigilant. As he ponders his actions, his face reflects doubt. By the way, I've been down this road so many times, haven't I? But I don't feel as confident without Alpha's help. Akira reflects on his new independence. He decides to take advantage of the technology at his fingertips. Check the card at my terminal, and then choose the safest route, he plans, figuring out the best route. Akira is ready for action, his gaze focused and his posture ready to move quickly. He knows he has many challenges ahead of him, and he must rely on himself to overcome them. Akira feels the tension as he scans the wreckage of the destroyed buildings. Damn, I've been stuck here for an hour and I've barely made any progress. His frustration is palpable in his intermittent thoughts. He checks every corner, knowing that danger could be waiting for him at every turn. If suddenly someone brushes up against me in a place I haven't checked, my life will be immediately cut short. His voice filled with an awareness of the risks he carries as a hunter. Confirming his fears, he admits, yes, these ruins are very dangerous after all. His every move must be careful and deliberate. Back in Slam City, life goes on as usual, and a voice from the crowd reminds him, "You did well, Akira." These words of encouragement give him the strength to continue his journey in this dangerous but opportunity-filled world of hunters. In the ruins of an abandoned city, where the history of every stone is steeped in the secrets of the past, two adventurers take their next step. A young man, confusion and determination mixed in his eyes, tightly holds the amulet, the final key to their quest. An explorer doesn't get much easier with the right ammunition, he thinks, while his companion, who has a mystical charm, is already ready for new discoveries. He recalls every moment of their journey, how she, always unfazed, supported him when the difficulties seemed insurmountable. She's really coolly supportive, but I can't always rely on just her, he admits to himself, trying to hide his vulnerability. His chaperone, meanwhile, shares her observations with him. As time goes on, we're going to find more and more of them. As they make their way through narrow streets filled with whispers of the past and echoes of future adventures, they realize that every action they take leads to the opening of new chapters of history. "You're not a diligent hunter." "I knew we'd find more of the usual," she says, emphasizing the usual as if it was something more significant to both of them. He smiles, realizing that every step they take brings them closer to something great. Looks like it was worth it to achieve something rank after all, he thinks, feeling his heart fill with pride and anticipation. What secrets lie ahead? They are ready for new discoveries, new chapters in their never-ending story. The suddenness of the onset of danger made the young adventurer's heart beat faster. "Akira, we're surrounded," his companion whispers, not losing her composure even in the face of imminent threat. Her voice, cold and judicious, becomes an anchor for his agitated mind. This is the first time Akira truly feels the weight of responsibility for both of their lives. "We need to change position," he thinks determinedly, clutching the amulet in his hands. His decisions must now be quick and precise, like the movements of a chess master striving for checkmate. The screams of their opponents ripped the air like a thunderous roar as they inexorably shortened their circle. "Surround him! Don't let him get away!" The desperate and violent faces of their opponents only confirm the seriousness of their intentions. Akira and his companion found themselves in the heart of an enemy ambush. "Damn it, headed for the gang," Akira thought as he dodged punches and attacks. Judging by their numbers and determination, they are from the Slam City gang. "Just as I thought, I don't have any luck left at all after all, do I?" he admits bitterly, but there's a note of defiance in his voice as well as despair. The adventure promises to be even more dangerous, but at the same time even more exciting. A corner of the building becomes a temporary shelter for Akira while he tries to figure out what action to take next. "I guess the rumor of a guy coming back from the ruins with booty got them interested," he says, figuring out how such rumors could have led to the current chase. His reputation seemed to have spread further than he had realized. He realizes that their attention is focused on the amulet he found, and that he must turn the situation in his favor as soon as possible. "Then we need to get rid of that image as soon as possible," Akira decides, preparing for action. His companion, wasting no time, gives him some valuable advice. "Start with the most seriously armed. Kill them one by one." Her words carry strategy, equanimity, and confidence in his abilities. Akira is about to trot off when she reassures him with her last words, "If things go bad, just follow my lead, okay?" "Good. I don't feel like dying myself." They are ready to fight, knowing that together they can face any challenge. "Am I going to make it?" he asks, and she answers, "Sure, as long as you have me." At the heart of the conflict, Akira finds a moment of reflection that illuminates his inner conflict. "It's kind of weird, even though I'm a hunter. I have to kill people," he says, facing a dilemma when his actions contradict his expectations of himself as a monster hunter. Akira feels that the line between the monsters he's been hunting and the people who seek to kill him is becoming increasingly blurred. Since they're trying to shoot you for no good reason, then they're not much better than monsters, I guess, he decides, trying to justify the necessity of his actions. His opponents don't give him time to think long. They continue to attack using superior numbers and street smarts. "He can see all our movements? What the hell is even going on?" exclaims one of the attackers, surprised by Akira's ability to anticipate their moves. In the midst of the fight, his companion enters the fray, protecting his back. "Stop bullying!" she shouts, applying her skills and intuition to ensure they both have a chance at survival. Their fight for justice in this dystopian world continues, each facing their own fears and doubts, but their determination remains unwavering. The fight escalates, and every shot, every scream reflects the tension in the air. Stop. The battle echoes through the ruined streets, where every second can be decisive. Akira, focused and silent, acts like a true warrior despite his inner doubts. His cold stare evades his precision, a view that can only be the result of multiple encounters with mortal danger. He knows that every round is a chance to turn the situation in his favor, but he also understands that guns don't solve all problems. "Leave her alone. You'll only waste ammo," he reasoned, choosing his targets with calculation. Akira and his companion continue to maneuver among the ruins, dodging attacks. "The next target is already here. Apparently reinforcements have arrived," she says as she rushes forward, ready for new challenges. Together they will overcome this obstacle, because their courage and mutual understanding make them invincible. A sudden explosion changes the course of events, and Akira's partner is trapped in a trap. Her shocked face speaks volumes, her eyes reflecting confusion and fear. "Help! No, oh! Her screams to invisible saviors, probably Akira. The picture of destruction tells its own story. Dust, debris, and the emotionless bodies of those who have already fallen in this merciless battle. "Thank you, help." Perhaps it's the cries of other survivors, or the pleas for help echoing in the echo of the struggle. One of the antagonists, caught in the ruins, seems willing to do anything to keep himself alive. "If you let me go, I'll bring you to the boss." His promise could open up new opportunities for Akira and his companion. This twist could be a chance to change the game in their favor and unravel the mysteries they've been trying to solve for so long. The captured adversary tries to negotiate by playing on the instinct of self-preservation and fear of the unknown. "So let it go, okay?" His voice is assertive but desperate. He offers a deal, emphasizing the reality of a threat they've all begun to ignore. "The whole gang will be after you, you know? Otherwise..." The words sound both a warning and an invitation to talk. "You don't want any trouble, do you?" He tries to convince Akira that the choice between battle and diplomacy is not only a moral choice, but also a strategic one. Akira faces a difficult decision, realizing that every choice has a price. "Yeah, right. I somehow don't feel like dying." His response reflects a desire to live and at the same time a reluctance to become what he fears to be. Their next move could determine the outcome of their entire journey. Fear leads to betrayal. The captive enemy's face is contorted with horror as he realizes that no deal will be made. "Looks like the MU will have to die on you." Akira's cold verdict sounded like a sentence. Akira acts decisively, not letting his opponent's threats and promises get in the way of his choice. "Are you a blackmailer? Now is not the time to think about it. The hunter may well go after the others, you know?" he says, the determination in his voice leaving no room for doubt. The situation escalates, and now the surviving adversaries are faced with reality. Their leader has fallen, and their fate is now uncertain. What's going to happen to our faction now? Questions about the future hang in the air, filled with fear and uncertainty. One of the surviving gang members is looking for a way out, willing to do anything to survive. "Look, I have connections in another gang. Let's join them." He turns to his comrade, looking for a chance to start over. But can it be trusted, or is it just another hoax? The woman in the gang, desperately realizing her helpless situation, turns to Akira and his companion. "Wait, take me with you too." She is looking for protection and a way out of the cycle of violence in which she has become entangled. However, her gangmate, intoxicated by fear and possible betrayal, lashes out at her with accusations. "Are you stupid or something? You're getting your own. Taking you is tantamount to suicide." Emotions are running high, and he sees no other option but to hurt her. The situation culminates and she, stunned, falls to the ground. "Just die somewhere already," he shouts, leaving her no hope of rescue or mercy from her own. In the eyes of the woman hidden in the shadows, you can read despair and understanding of the bitter truth. "Why did everything turn out this way? Because I was in a gang of my own. No one wants to deal with me." Her loneliness and exile become her new reality, a reflection of the cruel nature of the world she is forced to survive in. In the eyes of the woman lurking in the shadows, one reads acceptance of fate and insight. "It seems I have no choice. Now that it's come out like this, it's my only chance." She realizes that a turning point in her life has come, and it's time for a change. Akira and his companion continue on their way, pondering their next steps. "Good. Well, we'll practice on a pack of gun dogs, he says, boosting his morale for new challenges. He reflects on his abilities and what lessons have been learned from past battles. I wonder if the bulk of hunters can handle monsters of this level. I feel like I've really gotten stronger after all this training. Except I think I'm still too weak to fight these dogs. Akira's companion, upon hearing his words, does not hide her surprise and admiration. By the way, those hunters you saved could take down a whole pack of gun dogs. Are they really that strong? Perhaps she's beginning to realize that there are forces in the world beyond her wildest imaginings. Akira and his companion continue to discuss their plans. Good. Anyway, let's focus on practicing, she says, confident that with enough resources, they can improve their skills. Suddenly, she turns her attention to something important. By the way, Akira. Her tone makes Akira wary. Again? His question is filled with a premonition of more trouble to come. We're being tailed, her words confirm his fears. It seems that their journey will not go as smoothly as they had hoped. She peers into the corner where the quiet voice comes from. Don't worry, it doesn't look like she's going to attack. Apparently she wants to talk, but is hesitant. They realize that there may be a new meeting coming up that could change their course of events. The girl's face, reflecting fear and confusion, looks at Akira. He, surprised and wary, asks, "What do you want from me?" Her intentions are not yet clear to him. She hesitates, her voice trembling. Talk. Akira, with mixed feelings of puzzlement and curiosity, continues, Talk? About what? His companion reminds him of the recent past. She was among the attackers back then during the shootout, remember? A picture of that situation begins to form in Akira's mind. Akira looks at her shrilly. You're one of the ones who attacked me, aren't you? So what do you want now? Now that he's recognized her, there's tension in the air, and there's a conversation to be had that could change everything. The girl is stunned by Akira's sudden proximity. Her eyes are full of tears, and she seems agitated, as if she's on the verge of an important revelation or request. Akira, confused by her reaction, asks warily, Leave the barrels! Is it because of me? He can't understand why she's reacting this way, or what could have caused such an emotional storm. She pleads with him, You didn't mean to attack me either, did you? So let's calm down and talk, all right? That's what you came for, isn't it? Her words reflect a desire to resolve conflict and find common ground. Akira seemed to find himself in an awkward situation when his companion notices, From the outside, it looks like you made a little girl cry. It's up to him to find a way to pacify the situation and find out what this mysterious girl really wants. Akira, frowning, asks a question reflecting his bewilderment. What's in it for me, huh? You can hear the irritation in his voice, caused by the surprises that won't stop. The situation escalates, and suddenly Akira, his companion, and the girl who had previously been standing on the sidelines leave the scene of the conflict in a hurry. Let's go, Akira urges, and they all run together to escape the new unknown threat. After running away from danger, they find a place to take a breather. What was that all about anyway? Akira tries to understand what just happened while his companion tries to calm him down. The girl, who only a short while ago had been asking to talk, now looked lost and puzzled. All eyes out. Her thoughts that an inexcusable process on her part could jeopardize the negotiations speak to her internal conflict and fear of the consequences of her actions. The girl seems to realize that Akira isn't a threat to her. At the very least, he won't kill me. But through it all, he loosened his focus. I hope it's not a lie. Her words hint at some calculation and the possibility of manipulating the situation. Nevertheless, there is hope in her eyes. And yet, he brought me here for a reason, and it was with this, right? She realizes that Akira could have just left her to her fate, but he didn't, and now she's searching for the deeper meaning behind it. It would be great if I could get him to honor my request. Yes, I'll do my best to do it. Her resolve seems firm, but at the same time she realizes her limitations. I'll do my best. In her words, you can hear both the intent to get her way and the recognition that her options are not limitless. The girl's face reflected sincere gratitude. Thank you for... She begins, but the words are lost in her emotions as she tries to express her feelings. Akira and his companion watch her carefully while the girl makes an unexpected gesture. She holds out a tray of food to them, trying to thank them in some way. Tears of emotion and gratitude can be seen from her eyes as she says, I'm sorry to bother you. Thank you for the food and thistle. This moment closes a chain of events that began with tension and suspicion and ends with peaceful understanding and gratitude. Akira, with a note of irony in his voice, offers, Call me Chief Mr. Akira. He establishes some distance, trying to bring some lightness to the tense atmosphere. However, his mood quickly changes when he says, "Let's cut the crap." His gesture and facial expression indicate that he is ready for a serious conversation. With a strained look, he asks, "So what did you want to talk about?" He makes it clear that he's willing to listen to her and find out exactly what she had to say. The girl seems ready for a revelation. "Okay, I'll get right to the point." Her determination to break the silence may reveal new facets of the story that until now have remained behind the scenes. The girl, with hope in her voice and some anxiety in her eyes, makes an unexpected suggestion. "Akira, please become our boss." Akira, with displeasure reflected on his face, dismisses the idea. "Nope, I'm not interested." His response is clear and decisive. He doesn't want to get into additional commitments. She insists, trying to convince him, "You're not risking anything. Even on the contrary, being a hunter, you'll be able to capitalize. And anyway, hunters have plenty of reasons to join a gang." Her arguments show that she sees more in Akira than he thinks of himself. However, Akira remains adamant. "I won't change my mind, look for someone else." His last words, "Oh, wait a minute," indicate his annoyance at the girl's intrusiveness and that he is not ready to accept her offer. The girl looks agonizingly indecisive, as if she senses that her last attempt may be futile. Persuasion will only make him angry. There's no choice. Her words carry desperation and an acknowledgement that the proposal could be perceived negatively. She makes one last argument, promising Akira complete freedom of action. "If you become head of the gang, you can do whatever you want to me." This proposal seems bold and desperate at the same time. Perhaps it's about something more than leadership. Akira, on the other hand, seems completely unfazed by this turn of events. His facial expression and body suggests that he's not ready to take on that kind of responsibility and everything that comes with it. He looks determined and detached, emphasizing his desire to stay out of the whole situation. Akira rejects the girl's offer with understanding but also firmness, expressing doubts about her ability to be useful in a decoy role. His words are not without sympathy, but they are firm and realistic, emphasizing that she may bring more trouble than good. The girl's reaction is tinged with surprise and some despair as she realizes that her attempt to influence Akira has failed. Her look and gestures express concern and frustration. Meanwhile, another girl who observes the situation makes the assumption that the sentence had a hidden meaning, perhaps related to gender roles in their group. This assumption may indicate that there is a certain balance or expectation in the group that the girl is trying to upset with her proposal. In response, Akira continues to dismiss the idea with a slight smile and a joking tone, insinuating that a girl can't replace his beauty and attractiveness. This may be his way of softening the rejection while keeping the atmosphere light and non-serious. Staring at each other, the young man and the girl exchange remarks full of recriminations and promises. "I say as I certainly won't be," he declares, as if defying his own fate, while she, with a slight chuckle, reminds him, "You don't have to say the same thing 3 times. The atmosphere of tension grows when the girl, like a demon leading the temptation, notices, "If you mean girls who just throw themselves at you at the first opportunity, I've had enough of those." She emphasizes that she values authenticity over superficial attention. "Besides, I don't like people who accomplish their goals in this manner, relying only on other people's weaknesses," she continues, expressing her disdain for manipulation and hypocrisy, while looking confidently into the boy's eyes, as if seeking an ally rather than an adversary. The situation changes when a new character appears, a naive girl in a school uniform who asks the question, "Pre-mangaka," or a consumable, causing others to be thoughtful. Hidden in her words is the question of self-identity. Who are they in this story? Creators of their own path or expendable in someone else's hands? The girl with demonic features speaks of the series of trials the young man went through. "First you were attacked in the ruins, then in the city, and now this." Her words are saturated with sympathy and hidden anxiety. Her gaze reads the history of their shared calamities. The young man seems dazed and depressed, his reaction reflecting deep disappointment. In other words, it looks like your luck has turned away from you. Fate seems to have placed him in front of an insurmountable wall, with the burden of failure resting on his young shoulders. The third scene presents a possible turn of events, where the girl offers an alternative by asking, "I mean, it's a good opportunity, right?" It raises the subject of moral choices, offering a chance for correction and perhaps redemption. The boy holds his ear tightly as if trying to hide his confusion or pain by confessing, "Even so, taking care of her is too troublesome." These words may speak of a heavy burden of responsibility that he no longer wishes to carry. A girl with demonic features and a mysterious confidence makes a suggestion, and all you have to do is reach out. She hints at a simple action that might make his journey easier. You don't have to take care of her for the rest of your life at all, she adds, offering a temporary solution that doesn't require a lifetime commitment from him. The boy seems pensive as he listens to her words. This will bring back your luck. Nothing more will be required. She offers him something that could be the key to regaining his favorable fortune, hinting at the possibility of regaining his lost luck. The scene in the reception room. A girl in a school uniform looks at the boy and briefly commands, "Cheryl, have a seat." There is a sense of tolerance in her voice, but also an insistence that emphasizes her role as the more responsible person in this interaction. In the last moment of their interaction, the boy seemingly makes a decision. He looks down, pensively considering the girl's words and weighing the actions to come, while she stares out the window in anticipation, perhaps thinking of the future they can build together. A young man with indecision in his eyes faces a choice as if facing a coin toss. Heads or tails? This decision, it seems, will determine much in their fates, and he hesitates before its weightiness. The girl with the demon ears answers simply and plainly, "Tails." Her eyes are full of anticipation, and she keeps her gaze on the boy, as if conveying to him her confidence that the choice is the right one. The suddenness of the choice makes the boy wince. Tails or an eagle, what is it? His doubts intensify, and he realizes that despite the seemingly random choice, the consequences will be far from random. He stands up, full of determination, and declares, "Like I said before, I have no intention of becoming your head." His words carry echoes of past promises and choices he has already made, perhaps seeking independence or avoiding unwanted commitments. The girl listens to the explanation with bewilderment and anxiety in her eyes, but I will help you, of course, on some conditions. First of all, you're going to be the boss. She encounters an unexpected twist that turns her understanding of their relationship upside down. The young man answers her, emphasizing his decision. "I'll only help you, you know. Gang issues don't bother me." He faces a difficult choice, but his decision defies the pressures of circumstance. The situation escalates when he contemplates a radical step. "Stop. If I bring in an acrylic that helps me, that kills the force and practically wipes out the gang, then..." His words transport them to a world where the struggle for power and survival goes hand in hand with danger and sacrifice. She comes to terms with the reality of her situation. "I have no choice. There won't be another chance." Her words express despair and a recognition that the path they have chosen leaves no room for hesitation or doubt. There's tension in the air. "Thank you so much," whispered the boy, his voice full of gratitude, but something heavy lay on his heart. He felt guilty but couldn't admit it. The girl looked up at him, her eyes full of confusion. "But what was on my mark?" she asked, the innocence of her gaze hiding the storm of emotions inside. She searched for answers that could explain her anxiety. The guy answers, his gaze serious and piercing. "I had nothing against you asking questions, but if I suddenly don't answer, don't ever ask me that again." His words carried an adamant decision. And there they stand, face to face on the stairs. "Well, happily ever after, Vasi," he says, trying to hide his anxiety under a mask of indifference. Her response, "Ah," expresses so much: fear, misunderstanding, perhaps the beginning of a goodbye. The story goes on. "What fell out there?" the girl asks with concern in her voice, holding a coin in her hand. A dime?" she answers uncertainly, trying to hide her confusion. It was hard for her to focus when so much was at stake. He turned away, his shoulders tense. "I won't tell." Briefly he threw, trying to remove himself from the situation. There was a note of determination in his voice. He didn't want to divulge a secret that could change everything. There is doubt in his eyes, tension in the air. Did I win? What's the my toll of her bid? He thinks, looking at the girl who carries the answers. Or did you lose? The question hangs in the air, unnamed but tangible. They stand against a backdrop of desolation, the past popping up in front of their eyes. But after his death, they became different. All these places used to belong to a power gang. The girl looks at the dilapidated buildings, and her words carry a sadness for the past that has gone, leaving behind only shadows. In a city torn by conflict, a young warrior and an innocent maiden discuss the brutality of war. Can friendship change the course of a battle? The girl pondered, her eyes full of hope. Meanwhile, a mischievous friend watching them jokes, "They look like they're getting ready for a wedding." The tension of the moment is dissipated by her laughter. The guy resented the assumption. "This isn't a wedding, this is serious. he objects, trying to emphasize the seriousness of their discussion, while the girl continues to tease him. Suddenly, he changes the subject. While we're here, let's get something to cheer us up, he offers, trying to hide the embarrassment and channel their energy into something more positive. Why is he looking at me like that? The girl worried, feeling the young man's gaze. Her heart beats faster. His friend slyly notices his confusion. It's good that you're so obedient. Her words suddenly add to his confusion. What will you show me if I start asking? He thinks, anticipating stories of the past. They're going after the market. A gift, then. The young man ponders as he picks out a souvenir. A crate of weapons is opened in front of the young man, and the merchant proudly presents his merchandise. Guns! His voice full of anticipation. But the hero hesitates, his gaze full of doubt, though it doesn't seem to be quite the same. He is looking for a gift that is more meaningful. A witty friend reminds us of the importance of choice. You decide for yourself. Besides, if your enemy picks one thing and makes you feel bad about it, it will teach you a lesson. The only thing left is to ask the girl who accompanies him for advice. Fine, I'll ask her, he decides, dismissing the thought of buying a gun. Turning to the girl, the young man asks, Is there anything in here you'd like to get? His question is full of genuine concern. You want proof of our relationship? He says thoughtfully, realizing that the gift could be a symbol of their friendship. The girl closes her eyes, folding her hands as if in prayer. Then let me leave it to you. I hope it's for the best. He's alarmed. Okay, but don't complain later, he warns, giving her one last chance to pick out a gift on her own. Lively discussing possible gift options, the young man suggests, How about a piece of jewelry? I think it's the most suitable option. His eyes genuinely sparkle at the thought that this could be the perfect gift that she would appreciate and be reminded of today. In his mind, he dismisses the previous choice. Just as I thought, the weapon didn't fit, huh? This thought amuses him, but at the same time, the character realizes that the gift needs to be more personal and meaningful to reflect their relationship. The girl is in awe of his endeavors. Akira, thank you so much for today. Take care of me now. Her words and facial expression reflect deep gratitude and recognition of his care. The young man answers her seriously, but with a note of tenderness. Okay, be careful on the way back. He feels responsible for her well-being and is ready to protect her in any situation, emphasizing their closeness and trust in each other. The girl looks at the pendant, Akira's gift, in confusion. How unexpected. I never realized he was so caring. Her thoughts are full of surprise and warmth at her friend's unexpectedly sensitive gesture. Her gaze is thoughtful and full of tenderness. Akira, he's so mysterious. She catches herself thinking that she still doesn't know much about him, and it worries her. She ponders his behavior, and yet I wonder why he turned around so often. It was like there was someone else around. Her intuition tells her that there is something more lurking in their adventure. Well, I bet I wouldn't have gotten an answer even if I'd asked that. She is confident in his mystery, sensing that Akira is keeping secrets. The girl turns to Akira, seeing him armed. Akira, aren't you going back? Her voice is full of worry and bewilderment, her eyes reflecting the sudden realization that their peaceful search for gifts may have been just the calm before the storm. Akira looks around, his face serious. Me? I was thinking that since it's outside anyway, there's something I could do. There is a sense of the weight of unresolved issues and the need for action in his words. Her gaze is full of confusion. She doesn't understand his intentions. Just to be on the safe side, since it's a survivor's day. Her reaction expresses a mix of feelings, both fear and hope for clarification. Shows a building labeled Power Base, which is where Akira seems to be headed. It is now clear that behind its quiet facade lurked a deeper mission. The girl stands in front of the closed doors, discouraged. Just as I suspected, they've got it all brewing. Her voice reflects frustration and helplessness in the face of an unexpected obstacle. Inside the building, she stops, looking at the massive metal structures. Throne of Power, she whispers, feeling the weight of everything this place symbolizes. A figure on a throne appears before her, armed and powerful. Her gaze fixed on him, her heart sinking at the inner tension and danger this man posed. He collapsed in it, blustering about being a gang leader. But now it will be taken over by me. Her words are full of determination and courage. She is ready to accept the challenge and take on the burden of leadership. Hiding in the shadows, the girl tensely reasoned, if the remaining gang members see me with Akira, they'll definitely come to make sure. Her concern is growing by the second. She knows that every move she makes could have dangerous consequences. That was the objective of the half-day killed on the walk with Akira. The idea that all these events could have been part of a larger plan makes her doubt her companion's true intentions. From her height, she notices suspicious movements below. They're here! You can hear the anxiety in the girl's voice and the readiness for action. She realizes that there is little time left for reflection. If my adventure with Akira was the first betrayal, her thoughts become intertwined with her emotions when she realizes she may be part of a game she herself doesn't want to be a part of. Determination flickers in her gaze, and even though the outcome of the first game is rather doubtful, this is the second. She is ready for the new chapter, the new challenges that lie ahead. As long as I live, I'm winning. There's no other way for me to do it but this. You can hear the determination in her words, but also the desperation. She sees another way, but no fight. Calmly and confidently, she takes her seat on the throne. Welcome into my gang. She is now the one who determines the rules of the game. Stunned gang members stand in front of her. Your gang? What are you even talking about? They can't believe their new leader is standing in front of them, ready to lead them forward. With confidence and pride in her voice, she announces, "The only reason Akira and I ended up together was because I came to share the path with him, and from this day forward, I'm the head of the gang." Her interlocutor looks puzzled. Yes, it's a wonderful name, isn't it? So he's Nami's Akira. Tension builds as he angrily asks, "And yet, why did you come here, Primus forcing Therist off the stuff?" She explains his decision. Except he's quite often human, a hunter after all. So Akira told me to keep an eye on the gang. It reveals the motivations of Akira, who seems to be faced with having to make a decision that affects all of their future actions. She calmly asserts her position. Since I am actually the only one giving orders here, it confirms my status as the boss. Is that clear, Toyu? Her interlocutor replies angrily, "Stop talking nonsense. None of this would have happened if the damn co-ed hadn't killed Silsho." With confidence, she continues, "Or come to think of it, the system created a puppet of humans that summoned an ordinary boy." He is indignant, not believing her words. Squint, speak, but don't talk. No matter how strong that brat is, he's not here now. She looks at them, full of determination and equanimity. Are you serious? Do you really think I won't tell him anything about you? With menace in his voice, he replies, "Believe me, we knew perfectly well you were coming here." She doesn't hesitate. "You get caught, they'll let you get away with killing me?" Herge's eyes ferment and wavering, and he draws his weapon, grinning. "And this rubbish! A boy wouldn't go that far for you alone." His confidence in his control over the situation is palpable. With a slight smile, she touches the gift from Akira. "Look here, Akira gave me this." She touches a pendant filled with significance. Her eyes brighten at the memory. I'm his favorite. The words speak to the deep connection between the two. With a sense of power, she once again turns to those around her. "If you don't have some important things to do here, the way out is over there." Hurton points to the door. Ant Authority. New faces appear before her, full of hope. "You know what we're doing here. Accept us into the gang." They are looking for acceptance and a place in her new reality. She asks the question, looking at the gang members with slight irony. "Oh, so you recognize me as the boss?" They answer her with submission, recognizing her new authority. "Yes, be our boss." With obvious pleasure, she is willing to accept their offer. "In that case, you're welcome." And wrapping up the meeting, she commands, "I'm very busy right now. Now come home." She sends them away, showing that she is now in control of the situation. She meets their gazes and instructs, "I'll expect you tomorrow." She sets new roles and expectations for her Karjas. But in the next moment, her confidence is replaced by anxiety. There was dangerous. It's too dangerous. She recognizes the risks they've all endured. A glimmer of fear appears in her eyes. I need a place where it will be safe even without him. She is looking for a refuge, a place where she can feel safe. Sitting down on the floor, she admits her vulnerability. Even though I have Akira's support, I don't think he'll be with me 24/7. She realizes that she can always rally on others. And in conclusion, she's willing to go all out. My first step in this game is to create a safe haven for me. At least I'll take advantage of whatever I can. She's determined to protect herself and her position in this new and dangerous world. A look of reminiscence read in her gaze. Yes, it was horrible, but still not like when Akira found me. She reflects on the past. Because of that, I've been able to live in relative safety up until now. With slight regret, she admits, even in the power gang, I worked hard to strengthen my position. Everything changed with the arrival of Akira. Everything changed with the arrival of Akira, and the story picks up as a group of armed men appear on the scene, ready for action.